Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of All. In this video we're going to have a look at the most efficient way of bringing in icons or symbols into Blender from pictures so we can use them for our modelling. So I've been asked a few times how you can bring an SVG file into Blender and actually make it usable, because a lot of the time they have some issues and we'll cover those later. But I thought I'd go a bit further and have a look at actually how we can start with a picture and then convert that into an SVG file and then bring that into Blender to be usable. Because a lot of the time you see people, and I've done it myself as well, bringing in icons that are pictures and gradually tracing around them, and it's just a bit long-winded and annoying. So the first step of this uses a website which is free, and I wanted this to be all free. And that uses this website called Photopea, or Photopea. I'm not sure how you want to pronounce that. But either way, you're going to get your icons. Here's a couple of icons I found here, and we're just going to drag it in. Now, this is free to use, this website. You just get some adverts on the right-hand side. I'll survive those being there. But we're going to alter this to turn this into an SVG. So very simply, all you need to do is make sure you've got your image selected, and then you just go to Image, and then you go to Vectorize Bitmap. And you get, this is what the image looks like, and this is what it's going to turn into. Now, it starts with the colors being really high. I'd go down to probably 2. Which is the lowest it can be. Keep merge colors on so it'll merge all of the colors together, but you might want to separate this out if they've got lots of different colored bits and you want to have them maybe, let's say, different heights or something like that. But to be honest, I'd just keep everything as one thing to make it simple. Then you've got some options where you can have cartoon or photo. There's some slightly different options there, and generally cartoon works best, but try it out for you. And you can click reduce noise. This doesn't really do much on this one, so you're not going to notice much of a difference, but sometimes this can make it a little bit more boxy. I'll show you a different example in a second. Then we're just going to click OK, and you'll notice this has turned this into a path, and then we're just going to go to File, and then Export As, and SVG. Then you get this image, nothing to change, just check that it says SVG here, and then click Save, and I'm just going to call this SVG to make sure I know what it is. Now I'm just going to quickly refresh this to show one other thing as well, which is that if I do exactly the same thing, but now with my other icon, so click the image to make sure it's selected, image, vectorize, 2 colors, and then I'll just show you this. If I click reduce noise, you can sort of see just about it's a little bit more squared off here. Whereas if I take that off, it's a little bit more perfectly rounded. So hopefully you can notice the difference there. So we're going to leave that reduce noise off, click OK, and then we've got that. Now this one, because it has a white background, we don't want that white background. We want to get rid of that. And you can see that it's got 2 paths here. This one, which is the white background, and this one, which is the icon that we want. So I can just go there, hit delete, and that gets rid of that. So now I'm not going to have an extra layer on here as well. So let's File, Export As, and then SVG. Once again, we'll save this. We'll just call this SVG. Now I'm sure you can do something very similar with other software, for example Photoshop and probably GIMP as well. So do have a look out for those if there's something you prefer to use. I'd also really quickly like to say a massive thanks to Ethan Tull, who emailed me about this website, and it's really great to find something that's both online and free to be able to do this. Then we head over to Blender, and as long as we know what we're doing and some simple tricks, this becomes really easy. So let's go through those. So I'm going to go to File and then Import and then SVG, and then we're going to select our SVG file and then import that. Now this is likely to be really small, so I normally just press A and then S to scale it up. If you have got more than one object, then make sure you select just that object that you want to scale up. You'll notice this is all coloured in black because that's the colour of the icon that we had, but really quick to solve that. So I'm going to click on the object, come to my materials, and you'll notice we've got this SVG Mat 001. Just click the minus to delete that, and then we've got this, and we can nice and easily see all of our points. And this is really quite clean, but it's a curve at this point, which we don't want. We need to turn this into a mesh. So what I'm going to do is just right click, convert to a mesh, and then if we come into edit mode, you can see that we've got this unholy mess of 1,000,001 triangles. Now, you can go through these if you just go into edge mode and start selecting things and trying to delete them, but when you get to these points here, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. So what we're going to do is go into vertex mode so we can see the vertices. This is going to be important to make sure this is looking as good as it can. A, and then I'm going to press X for limited dissolve, and then we'll do that, and it'll automatically happen at about 5 degrees. Now this isn't too bad because it's just going to leave the major turns, or I say major, 5 degrees is relatively minor, but I want this to look a little bit smoother on these rounded edges, so what I'm going to do is really crank that down. maybe something like 0.1. Let's have a look at that. And that looks much better. We've still got a few more than we need on some of these side bits here, and it's not perfectly even both sides, but this should work pretty well. Now, if you don't need this much detail, you can set this to whatever you want. 1 works quite well as well. It's entirely up to you, but I'm going to go to that 0.1. Now, one other thing that I want to do is I do want to make this symmetrical, because it's meant to be, it's a symmetrical icon, but quite often we might have some errors or some differences in where these vertices appear, and that can be annoying depending on what you want to do. So what I'm going to do is pick the side that I want to keep. I'm going to keep this side, so my positive X direction, and I can do any fixing that I want. For example, all of these vertices here that are on a basically flat line are pretty irrelevant, so I'm going to press Shift and select all of them, not that one, and then press M and go to my last one. So that's going to turn that into a perfectly straight line. I could do something here on the blood drop as well, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm okay with that. And then I need to pick a point that should be in the middle. So this point here should be the middle of that blood drop. So I'm going to Shift and S and move my object origin to my vertex. Now, your menu might look slightly different to mine. This is using Machine Tools. It's a free add-on. Just get it. It's free. It gives you loads of options like this. There's a link in the description. Now, there's one slight problem with this. If I go to Object and then bring in my mirror, or have a look at what my mirror is going to look like, I'm going to use Alt and X for hard ops, which is a paid for add-on. If you don't have that, don't worry, I'm only using this to demonstrate how this looks. I'm going to show you how to do this without that paid for add-on at all, but if you are interested in it, again, there's a link in the description. Now this shows us the orientation of the mirror, and we can see this is all messed up. It's going to be a problem, and that's because Blender couldn't interpret what direction that this object is meant to be. So what I'm going to do is escape out of that, and I'm going to press Ctrl and A and apply the rotation and the scale. Now when I try to mirror it, you'll notice that everything is correct. Now, just to show how we mirror if we're not using hard ops, what I'll do is just escape out of that again, come to my add modifier, we want to have a mirror, and we want to go along the X, and because we're not going from negative X to positive X, we're going from positive X to negative X, we're going to need to click that bisect function. Then I can just apply this, and if we go into vertex mode, we can see we've got everything aligned perfectly in the center, and everything is mirrored, so it's symmetrical. At this point, face mode, A to select everything, E to extrude it up, and we've got our icon ready to be added to something. Now if I just move that over to the side, and then bring in, let's say, a cube, and then let's S, and then Shift and Z to make that bigger, we can have a look what we can do with this. We could either just add this to the object, or we could also, let's bring in a copy, bring that over to around here. What I can do is click that icon, shift click the object, my cube, press Ctrl and minus, and then let's just H to hide that. You can also see that we can do something like an engraving. So you've got many options of what you can do with these icons, and it's actually quite useful to build up a bank of these, using things like the asset browser so that you can just bring these really quickly into any sort of object or project that you need to use it for. So hopefully that's been useful to you, and again, thanks to Aiton for that website. If you did find that useful, please do hit the like button so other people can find this easily. It really does mean that YouTube spreads it around a little bit more. I'm going to be doing something in the future with some of these symbols and showing some other tricks that we can do with them, so do hit subscribe if you aren't subscribed. And if you want to support the channel more, there is a Patreon page where for a few dollars a month, you get these videos a week ahead of time, ad-free, and other great perks as well. Have a great day, guys.